I took my daughter to the fish market the other day so she could select a fish for our family's dinner. She looked at all the fish and the many fish stalls and almost lost hope. This was her first time to select the fish herself, and she had so many questions. First, she asked me why I was so careful in examining the fish before I bought it. I wanted my daughter to know about selecting good quality fish, so I told her the story that my mother told me when I was about her age. In the old days, and still in some Pacific Island countries, fish selling isn't always as clean and healthy as you see here. In most countries in the Pacific, butchers are very careful with handling meats such as chicken, beef and lamb. They keep the meat refrigerated and in dust-free and hygienic displays. But for some reason, people don't treat fish the same way. In some countries, fish are still sold outdoors or on the side of the road. Often the fish are just lying on the dirty ground, and the heat from the sun quickly spoils the fish. Imagine, I told my daughter, if meats were sold in the same way as fish, how many people would want to buy it? And sometimes the fish may be left in the sun all day before it is sold. If the fish is washed, it's usually washed in dirty black creek water, which contains millions of germs. I could see that my daughter didn't understand why that was so bad. I explained to her first that if those millions of germs get onto the fish, after a short time, the flesh becomes soft and very tasteless. After a while, there are so many germs that if we eat this fish, it could give us a bad case of diarrhea. I told her about a friend of mine who bought a really good-sized tuna in one of these street markets for her family. Because of the conditions of the market, it had started going off. But because she was in a hurry, she hadn't looked at the fish carefully. The next day, her whole family suffered from fever and diarrhea. I pointed out to my daughter how carefully the fish sellers at this market wash their fish with clean, fresh water. They also wash their hands before and after handling the fish to make sure that no germs from their hands got onto the fish. My daughter asked about the open-air markets in other countries. Why did they use dirty water, she asked. I had to smile. Sometimes they don't know any better, I told her. And clean water was just not available at some of these outdoor markets or any of the other facilities to help make fish selling healthier. It's up to customers like us to know where to buy our fish and how to choose it. Facilities like this market were designed for selling fish, I told my daughter. There are a number of stalls, all with running water. There's a source of ice and a place where chilled fish can be stored. I pointed out the drains used at this fish market too. That was so the water used to wash the fish and the stall is washed away and not left on the ground to attract flies and germs. In some street markets, there are no drains. Water, fish scales and other things are left on the ground where they quickly attract millions of germs and flies. And often, the smell at these markets is very strong, which may mean a lot of the fish have gone bad. This could make us sick if we choose a fish from there. The knives and other tools the sellers used were also important, I told my daughter. The cutting boards, surface for preparing the fish, and plastic fish boxes were kept clean by some simple washing techniques. The weighing scales are also kept in good condition. At some outdoor markets, none of this is done. Fish is prepared on dirty pieces of wood or worse, and the tools are never cleaned, spreading germs to the fish and increasing the risk of it being spoiled. I told my daughter that choosing the fish is also important. When she examines a fish, she should look for a few signs of freshness before selecting one. First, I told her to look at the overall condition of the fish. The skin should be firm to the touch and shiny. If it's very slimy, leave the fish alone. If the fish is too soft, it is no longer fresh and may already be spoiled. Look at the eyes too, I told my daughter. They should be full, shiny and bright if the fish is fresh. If the eyes have become sunken, watery and dull or even cloudy, don't buy the fish. See if the fish has been prepared properly. The fish will stay fresh longer if it has been gutted and gilled properly, with all the bloodlines cleaned out with a knife and plenty of clean water. If the fish is kept cold on a bed of ice, it will stay fresh longer. In the street markets, no ice is used and the fish quickly spoil in the heat and sunshine. I told my daughter never to buy fish that is sold without ice. "Why do people buy fish at those street markets if they might get sick?" my daughter asked me. I told her that these were often the traditional places to buy fish, but they had never been improved. Sometimes the fish is cheaper to buy there, but it's not worth the risk since our family could get very sick from bad fish. "Now," I told my daughter, "I've told you everything you need to know to pick our fish. Let's see how you do." My daughter looked around the market for a stall that was practicing all the things I told her were good. She found a stall where the owner was using a lot of fresh, clean water to wash the fish and his hands when handling the fish. She checked around the stall to make sure that the cellar had proper drainage and that no fish pieces or dirty water was attracting germs or flies. She checked that the fish was kept on ice, which keeps the fish fresh longer. She saw that the seller's tools for preparing and weighing the fish were all kept clean. My daughter then looked very closely at the fish themselves. She touched the skin to make sure the flesh was firm and didn't have too much slime. She checked inside the fish to make sure it had been cleaned and gutted properly. She checked the eyes too, making sure they were shiny, clear and full. After checking all these things, my daughter turned to me with her selection. I was so proud. She had picked the very same fish that I would have chosen. But knowing how to pick a good quality fish was only part of what my daughter needed to know. She also needed to learn how to choose a place to buy good quality fish. My daughter stopped me and asked why anyone would buy fish in a street market when there are such nice places like this market, which was set up for selling fish. Even if it was cheaper shopping at the outdoor markets, it wasn't worth the risk and you were never sure of the quality of the fish you were getting. I smiled and took my daughter's hand. I knew then that she would protect her own family's health when she grew up.